So in this chart you will see the major components, major aspects of the 5 most well-known religions of this time, of this age. First is Hinduism. Then we'll see Judaism, Christianity, Islam and Buddhism. So who is the God? You will see some certain similarities. For example, the Trinity in Hinduism is popularly known as Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh. We call it a Trinity. Islam doesn't believe in a Trinity. Christianity, on the other hand, believes in a Trinity too, in another form. Christianity believes in the Holy Father, the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Son. Of course, not all Christians believe in the same. Some believe that the Son, Jesus Christ, cannot be the God. So it's not the same. We'll discuss that also at a later stage. The God in Judaism is Yahweh. You cannot call him by name. You can call him or address him as Elohim or Adonai when you read it. But Yahweh was a very jealous God. And we'll discuss that later on too in one of the other analysis. But the God of the Old Testament, derogatorily called this desert God, was a very jealous and very violent God. We'll have examples of that. Islam, of course, very well known, adheres to Allah. And there's a lot of discussion going on about Allah, the name, because Allah is the Arabic term, the Arabic name for God. So it doesn't particularly personifies or addresses to a particular identity or entity. It refers to an almighty entity. Buddhism, of course, that's quite an interesting issue. Buddhism, the Buddha, which I'll address in a while, the Buddha, Gautama Siddhartha, who became the enlightened one, the Buddha, never mentioned any God. So in his teachings you won't find any mentioning of God or the Supreme Being. Their doctrine is not based on adhering to God or some God or any God. For them, suffering is the way of life. The founder, well, Hinduism has no founder, and there is a reason for that. I'll come back to that in a while. Judaism, of course, has a founder named Abraham. Before he went out of his hometown, he was known as Abram. As a matter of fact, his wife also was known as Sarai, and later only as Sarah. Abraham, I have to mention, Abraham is also the patriarch of the 2 other religions called Christianity and Islam. So there are 3 major religions of today known and categorized as Abrahamic religions, because they all 3 believe in Abraham as the founder. who went out, who was giving a covenant with God that he would have his own holy land, the promised land, by the God of the Old Testament, and therefore he went out of his home city and he went on his journey to the Holy Land, which we know now as Israel. Of course, Christianity has a founder, and that is Jesus Christ. There's a lot of controversy about Jesus Christ. We don't know who he exactly was. There are some obscure mentionings of Jesus Christ in the Old Testament, in the New Testament. But for example, there are two genealogies which contradict each other in the Gospel of the New Testament. Also, we don't know what he did. The little that we know about that he was as a baby, he was born of the Virgin Mary, and there were 3 kings who came to see him and brought him gifts, and so on. Those kind of little nice things we know. We don't know what he did as a little child. We know that there is a mentioning of him teaching, if we may believe, and as we can read in the New Testament, of he was teaching in the temple at age 12. And that's the only mentioning of him being somewhere at that particular age. Then he comes back from somewhere and he becomes this major preacher. And he introduces himself. Of course, if we may believe the New Testament, John saw him, or John foresaw him, and John said that this will be the Messiah. And Jesus says, yes, I am. And so we have this whole story about him preaching, creating a following, being a nuisance to the Jewish establishment. The Jewish establishment thinks he is an heretic, he is not the promised Messiah, and you have this twist now, especially these days after the Passion of the Christ by Mel Gibson. So there is this whole twist going on, back and forth. The Christians blaming Jews for having killed Christ. In New York, where I lived last year in 2007, there was an attack by Christian youth of a Jewish couple in the subway, New York. And they said to this couple, "You killed Christ." And they started beating the couple. And by the way, it was a Muslim man, a Muslim student from Bangladesh, who intervened and helped the Jewish couple. And he got some nice hits on his eye too. Anyway, there's this whole issue about Jesus Christ, whether he existed, where he was from, where he went to in his youth. Some say in India, by the way. Some say he didn't exist at all. There is one author, I think his name is Francisco Carboda or something like that. I'll find out for you later. And he claims that Jesus Christ is the same as Julius Caesar. And he has 1,000 of little facts that are very, very interesting. And it's there has been said that his research will put a bomb under Christianity. There are, of course, atheists even, and Christian apologists who say no way, that cannot be true. But you know, you never know.